Open your ears and lube up your butthole. It's time for the What Do We Call It podcast. Now, here's your host. It's Jmann. Welcome to the What Do We Call It podcast. I'm Jmann.
And I'm number one fan, Tim.
Here's that part 2 I was talking about.
All right, I want to hear the rest of this.
She picks them up. We talk about the lice thing. You know, she's going to go home and treat them. I think that's the end of it. I noticed there's a suitcase in the car, and her new drunk boyfriend's with them. Like, oh, maybe she picked him up from couch crashing his friends. I don't fucking know. I got a weird feeling about it. She calls me an hour and a half later when she's safe at home. She's like, just so you know, I checked our custody agreement. I'm like, oh, bitch. That's not a good way to start a conversation with me.
That's always trouble.
And she's like, and as far as I can tell, there's no issue with this. I'm going to take the girls to my boyfriend's parents' house in Missouri. I'm like, excuse me, motherfucker? She's like, it's on my days, so I'm giving you a heads up now. I'm like, no, you don't get to give me 12 to 16 hours of verbal notice. It states in the fucking agreement. She's like, I know what it says. I'm like, so you know that it says that anything that's a vacation, every year we each get 2 weeks uninterrupted vacation if we want, given that we've supplied a 30-day written notice to the other party. She's like, yeah, it's not a vacation. I'm like, are you leaving? Are you sleeping somewhere for multiple nights? It's not your house? Are you getting away? She's like, no, it's not a vacation. We're not like going to Disneyland. I'm like, that's not the point.
Vacation doesn't mean you're going to Disneyland or SeaWorld. Vacation means you're leaving your home for more than a couple of nights.
So let me just Google something real quick to see how smart I am. Because I feel like I'm pretty smart with the English language, but I just want to double check. Vacation synonyms. Holiday, trip, break. There's another one here. Leave. Kind of, she did leave. Abandonment, desertion, quitting. There's a bunch of other ones. Here's the other one I'm looking for. Getaway. A 4-day getaway. So we're arguing over this shit. And so we argue about it, and then she hangs up on me. She's like, I'm done talking to you. You can text me. Which pisses me off to no end. Because it takes forever to have these text conversations when we could just talk. And if she would let me have my turn to talk, she gets amped up and she knows I'm going to contradict what she's saying, so she talks over me. So then I talk louder and then she gets bitchier. Like fucking clockwork, it's retarded. So I say to her, well, just so you know, you don't have my permission to go. She's like, I don't care. I don't need your permission. It's on my days. She's got a point. I'm like, but you're leaving the state and you're not exactly telling me where you're going. She's like, you don't need to know where I'm going. I'm like, you're not even going to tell me the city where you're fucking going. You're going to take our children across state lines and say you're going somewhere that I can't fucking verify? I don't think so, bitch. I need to know the town and the physical address. That way I can Google map it. So she gives me the town and the street and says, that's enough. I'm like, is it? Because when I look that up, nothing comes up on Google Maps. She's like, well, it does for me. I'm like, yes, because you're inputting the entire fucking address. We go back and forth with that, and this is where I fucked up because I gave her a heads up what I was probably going to do. I said, if you skip state lines on me with those kids and I don't know where you're going, I'm going to fucking call them in as abducted. I'm not playing with you. Which then she immediately calls the cops to say that I'm mentioning that.
I'm mentioning it.
Yeah, she's like, he's saying he's going to call him in as abducted. And I'm telling her, I'm like, you need to give me that fucking address. This is ridiculous. So anyways, I am sitting there waiting for a cop to call me. She's like, I already talked to the police. You'll hear from them. I'm like, great. I look on my phone when it's ringing. It says restricted. I answer the phone. Hello, officer. How can I help you? And she's like, oh, hi, Jay. Do you know why I'm calling? I'm like, I'm pretty sure it has to do with this surprise trip that my ex is taking with our girls a couple states away on a moment's notice without giving me prior heads up or discussing it with me. And I told her the situation. I explained the custody agreement and what it says. She's like, I don't think that's unreasonable for you to know the address. She's like, you just want to know where they're going. I'm like, I can't stop her. And she purposely waited until Sunday night on a holiday weekend when she's going to leave on Monday. So the courts are closed. So I can't call to get a mediator to stop anything from happening to go over the agreement. Here's the thing. They were supposed to sleep in my house that Sunday night. But she switched it to the previous Thursday because she needed a break from dealing with the lice. I was like, whatever. In hindsight, this fucking bitch set me up so that she could leave right away Monday morning without having to deal with me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She did.
What a bunch of calculated bullshit, you conniving cunt. And then I keep trying to get the address. She won't give me the address. And she just keeps getting pissier and pissier. And then she's just like, I'm done talking to you. You're monopolizing my time with our daughters. I'm like, okay, well, their phone's shut off too. She's like, I'll pay the bill so they can call you tomorrow. And when we're there.
Yeah, like she's going to pay the fucking bill.
Well, it's the phone that she gets. And she did pay the bill to her credit.
Oh, well, wow.
Yeah, and they called me the next morning. And I told them, I'm not okay with this trip, just so you know. And I said some things about her boyfriend. I'm like, you think he's Mr. Nice Guy. He's been to jail a bunch of times. See, because I finally found out what his full name is. So I could finally run his record, which I did.
It's amazing that stuff is public record.
It's a court conviction.
Yeah, I didn't think they'd have something like that be public.
Oh, yeah. Anytime you have your divorce is public record. My
Well,
custody
divorce, yeah,
agreement
but
is public
criminal record.
Well, yeah, it's fucking public data. You
Just
committed
weird.
a crime against the courts paid for by the public, and then you either did or did not spend time in a jail, which is paid for by the taxpayer dollar. You deserve to know what these people did.
So can I look up what year I got a ticket on my boat the first weekend I had my boat?
Maybe it might be up there.
I did pay the fine.
Okay, it might.
That was an expensive fine.
So the next morning they go to leave, and she's like, I'm not giving you that fucking address. I'm like, this is ridiculous. I'm trying to work, and I'm having a hell of a time concentrating. I'm just livid. Fucking livid. And I'm like, what I should really do is just go over there and take the girls and say, you and your boyfriend with this constant day drinking and your emotional instability, I'm going to take these kids because you're not fit to have them right now. And I texted Loverboy to see what he knew. And he's like, she just told me that she's going out of town for a few days. I'm like, dude, she's not going out of town. She's going out of state. And she's taking your kid. Were you aware of that? And he was not. I'm like, are you okay with that? He's like, I'm not, but there's nothing I can do. Because right now he's living out of his van. So yeah, so I call a cop to see, what can be done about this. And he's like, well, I think the lady cop you talked to last night's here. Well, she wasn't. It was somebody else. He's like, well, what would you like me to do? I'm like, I would like you to call her and ask her for the address. He's like, well, what if she doesn't give it to me? I'm like, I guess at least you tried. You can guess how that's going. She's like, I told him the city we're going to and the street it's on. He's like, so she told you where she's going? I'm like, right. But she's got family in 4 other fucking states, dude. I don't know if she's going where she says she's going. And most people don't give you a heads up when they're abducting their own children, right? He's like, well, the cop last night said it didn't sound like she wasn't coming back. I'm like, right, but most people don't give you a heads up when they do this shit. I gave him a heads up of how she planned this shit so that I couldn't do anything. He's like, well, you got a point, but there's nothing I can do. What would you like me to do? Because I'm like, well, there's nothing you can do. He's like, okay, well then. And he keeps trying to talk over me. I'm like, I get it. It's done. He's like, okay, have a nice day. He's getting pissed. I don't need you to fucking give me a dissertation on why you've gone above and beyond what's normally expected because it's a civil matter. I get it. You're one of those cops that doesn't give a shit until my kids end up dead somewhere or kidnapped. And then you're like, oh, well, why couldn't this have been prevented? Because you stupid motherfuckers only act reactively, not proactively. That's why CPS is a fucking joke. Child Protective Services doesn't do shit unless there's imminent threat of harm or somebody's already been hurt. And once somebody's been victimized, you can't wind back the hands of time. So I found the address because I'm smart. And I know how to utilize public databases.
Okay.
So with his name, I was able to cross-reference the town where they were going. And with that, I used the last name and the street, which didn't exactly get me what I wanted. But let's just say that if you pay taxes on property, your name is attached to that tax property ID. Mm-hmm. I figured out where they went because Chi-Chi said, oh, they have a pool and I'm going to go off the diving board. Well, there's 3 houses on that street with pools with diving boards. So I rolled the dice. And then when they finally fucking got there, she had the girls call me. I didn't hear from them for 2 more days, and they were supposed to be back today at 4 or 5. She's like, I ended up needing to get new tires because mine were bad, and then we left late, so I won't be back till almost midnight. I'm like, whatever, bitch. But here's the thing. I put something on Facebook. I posed a question. Am I unreasonable for wanting to know the physical address of where they're going? And I explained how she set me up.
Yeah, I read it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. It made sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't hear anybody say, no, you're unreasonable.
No, yeah, nobody disagreed with it. It's just like, it's not an unreasonable deal. It's
Nurse Ashley said, well, I think because it's on her days, you're kind of fucked. But I wouldn't do it that way because I'm not a dick.
It just goes back with before. It doesn't matter if it's her days. She's taking them out of state. Okay? Whether she's taking vacation in state or out of state. I think as soon as you go across state lines, that becomes both of yours decision. And if you don't approve it, she's technically kidnapping them. Even though it's her time, even with her day, I think. I'm not 100% sure.
I'm going to say no.
Because she took them out of state without your permission.
Well, my wife's uncle used to practice family law.
Okay.
And he's like, yeah, she didn't give you written notice. So that would be a violation of the terms. He's like, but it is on her days and she'll be back before it's your days. So that might not work in your favor. Imagine if your ex, Leadhead, took the boys somewhere. She'd notify you, don't you think?
Yeah, I was actually going to show you an email. She sent me an email 3 months before their plane took off. Actually, it was closer to 4 months. With the flight information and everything. It's like, well, this is where we're going. We're going to Texas. And she does it every single time, months in advance.
I know. How fucked up is that? The beast won't even tell me the goddamn address so I can make sure it's a real place. And we hate each other, I get that, but your ex gives you the fucking trip itinerary, and she once tried to kill you. How fucked up is that for my situation?
Maybe she has remorse. I don't know.
No, she doesn't. That woman doesn't have a fucking soul.
I don't know.
Fucking
but,
sits around flicking her bean to the
she,
movie Wild Hearts Can't Be Broken because she loves horses so much.
And I told you about how she picked her new career, which she's not actually participating in.
What, you mean being a chef via Ratatouille?
Yep. Which is funny. I was watching it before I came over here. But no, she's actually been really good about it. We almost never fight and argue. Almost never. She gets a little short once in a while when I keep hounding her for child support. It's like, when are you going to have it? When are you going to have it? Okay, it's been fucking almost 3 weeks, you know? You get paid every 2. That's when I'm supposed to get a check. Right.
Does she pay you or does it get auto-deducted?
She pays me.
See, I like it that way, too, because I don't want Uncle Sam in my pockets looking like, where's the money?
There's a little flexibility that way, you know? If something comes up a little, you know, can I have a couple more days? Like, okay, fine, you know? But, like, the last couple of months has been a little more difficult because she's going, instead of every 14 to 18, it's getting to be 21, 23, you know? It's just like, hey, I need this consistency, you know? It's like, it's not really fun money. It's money to pay my bills.
I like how you're like, it's getting longer and longer between when she pays. She's like, oh, just a few more days, just a few more days. It sounds like somebody talking to a bookie, and you're almost having to be like, if you don't figure this shit out, Bruno's going to have to come see you. And you know Bruno, he bear hugs. He bear hugs till you don't hug back anymore. Yeah, I don't know how people deal with situations like this calmly. If someone's taking your kids out of state and you don't like them and you don't like who they're dating, that's already a fucking hurdle. But then to say you can't know where we're going and say, well, I'm not going to have you harassed as parents. She loves to use the word harass. Well, you're harassing me. I'm like, no. When I start saying stuff that you don't like because it defeats your argument and you sound like a fucking jackass, then you tell me, stop texting me, you're harassing me.
Yeah. I think one time my ex compared me to her husband's ex.
Yeah.
And that kind of like, all right, you know, I will bug you for a couple of days. Clearly I'm getting a little too pesky with where's my child support. But I mean, you know, again, that's money to survive on. So.
Well, it's funny because think of all the spending projects that the government fucks up on the regular. Budgets for roads, budgets for expansions, MNLARs, how many tens of millions did they waste on that fucking stupid e-file get your tab system that never came to be?
Well, the getting your tabs was supposed to be get your driver's license. It had something to do with both, didn't it?
It might have been multifaceted. My point being, if they can't manage that shit, and that's a giant project, why would I want them taking the money directly from my checks? They fuck up left, right, and sideways. I don't need your hands in my pockets, you dumb bitches.
Oh, so, well, Mrs. Number One fan of Cage will get a letter. Just like, well, you know, we tried to, you know, well, she didn't even get a letter, actually. A couple of times she didn't get any child support. So she ended up calling, and they're just like, oh, well, we need to look into it. And then they get back to her like 3 days later. It's like, well, we tried to do a draw to get your child support, but there was an insufficient funds notice. Like, why can't you call and tell me that when it happens?
Right.
You know, I mean, yeah, maybe there's 1,000 times it happens a day or something, but, you know, you don't just not notify, oh, there's a problem. Or perhaps maybe, you know, Drama's father should be like, hey, I don't have any money, you're probably not going to get child support, you know, I've been out of work or whatever the fuck. You know, at least admit it.
Irresponsible pieces of shit. I honestly think some employers should make it mandatory that you report if you have child support and whether or not it comes out of your check. And they can ding you disciplinary-wise if you fail to report that and you're not making your responsible payments. Like, this should have taken away somebody's driver's license and then they can't go get work. Like my stepdaughter's dad, who's been fucking homeless for going on 5 years, living at the junkie shelter there down in Minneapolis. And he can't get his fucking driver's license because he's $30,000 in arrears.
That's money that's never going to be seen.
Right. Unless he sells both of his kidneys, but they're probably fucking shot.
Probably.
He's skin and bones, fucking idiot. But back to the beast here. I think that when we go back to deal with our agreement, she's been saying she wants it redrawn up and like super specific so we never have to talk about anything. She's so wound up about coming at me with arguments because I'm so good at defeating her logic that she needs everything set in stone down to the most minute detail so she doesn't have to have a conversation. I swear to fucking Christ, when I Googled her boyfriend, he got busted 2 years ago in some rural county, going 100 and some miles an hour in a car. Somebody called it in. He ditched his car in the woods and was found walking down the side of the road in his boxer shorts with his hands up.
Say what?
He didn't want to get shot or anything. He was drunk but refused a breathalyzer.
Is he an ethnic fellow?
No.
Okay.
He had a bunch of drugs and drug paraphernalia in his car, but claimed he wasn't driving. Somebody else ran off, and that it wasn't his vehicle. But they found 7 pieces of identification in the vehicle to prove that he was who he says he was who he was supposed to be, and then identified the car as to him. Yeah, so I mean, he tried to bullshit his way out of this, and it didn't take. Great role model for my kids.
So it's not your car. Someone's drove it. Yeah. Okay, so why are you just a half mile down the road from it?
I don't know. So anyways, yeah, that's a situation I've been dealing with.
If you watch those live PD videos on YouTube, they're great because most of the criminals in there, that's exactly what it is. They try to bullshit their way out of the situation they're in, but it just fails every single time.
Well, if they're drunk or high, they're terrible at coming up with alibis. So you got to have something in the chamber before you get fucked up so you can rely back on that when you get questioned on the spot so it seems more believable. I'm not saying that every cop's as dumb as the cops in Trailer Park Boys or on Sunnyvale, where he's like, all right, boys, watch this, and Ricky just gives us some bullshit. And they're like, oh, okay, well, have a nice day. He's like, fucking stupid, dumb cops. Interact with the show on Twitter at What Do We Call It. That is at What Do We Call It. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/group/What Do We Call It podcast show. For the What Do We Call It podcast, I'm Jmann.
And I'm number one fan Tim.
And that's the end.